Alright, so today I'm going to be replacing the caliper and the caliper bracket on a Ram 1500 5.7 hemi. First thing you're going to do is you're going to want to remove these little bolts on either side of the caliper, because then you're going to put the new one onto the brake line, which is right here, and then you're going to hang that off to the side before you go and take the bracket off. Now, when you are putting the new one on, you want to make sure that your bleeder valve is at the top. That way, when you go to press down on the brakes with the bleeder valve open, everything fills up and then you wait for it to come out. Now, you will need a second person to step on the brakes while you're doing this, because you are going to need to see the fluid come out. That way you can get all the air pockets out. Now, as I do this, I will show you the steps I did to get those on, and then yeah, most vehicles that have this style of caliper, now there is a different one on smaller vehicles, but that's something totally different. But for these calipers that have a piston that compresses up to the brake pads, this will be the way to change these ones. Now, what I did was I removed the brake line from the old caliper and attached it to the new one. That way this is hanging and ready to go. The new caliper came with a new bolt for the brake line. It's going to have a little hole in it, which allows the brake fluid to go into the caliper to fill it up, or into the pistons to fill it up. Now, there is a copper washer that goes onto the caliper itself and underneath the bolt, kind of sandwiching this piece on. Now, I used a 12mm socket to put the new one on, but I had to use a 7/16 socket to take the old one off. Yeah. As you can see, that's the old one with one of the copper washers on it. Now I'm going to move the old caliper head and the caliper stand to put the new one on. In order to get the old caliper off, you will have to decompress the pistons. So I have a little pry bar here I'm going to put inside the hole and just kind of squeeze back a little bit. Now, with the brake line off, as you push these back, brake fluid will come out the top. That is okay, because this is no longer in use. Now, there is something I forgot to mention. If you are going to do this, make sure you remove the new caliper off the bracket first. It'll make it a lot easier for you to try and get the brake line attached to the new caliper. I have the old caliper off. I'm going to remove these bolts here, which hold the stand in place, and then after that you can go ahead and reassemble your brake caliper with putting the new stand on, putting your brakes back in. Now, if your brakes are worn out, I would suggest changing them at the same time. That way everything is all nice and fresh, as well as the rotors if they are warped due to old brake pads warping them. But if your brake system, like pads and rotors, are still good, then you're fine. Just put a new caliper head on. These bolts, I am using a 13/16 socket, and I do recommend using a breaker bar or a bigger ratchet, because these are on there pretty good, and you'll need a lot more force to take these off. Now, once you get these bolts back in, I would suggest starting one and then getting the second one in, because if you tighten the first one down, you're not getting the second one in. And once you've got these tightened all the way down to the point that you need a torque bar or torque wrench, you're going to torque these at, well, between 130 and 132 foot-pounds. And now that I've got the new caliper bracket on and in place and secure, I can go ahead and put the brake pads back in and then reattach the caliper head. Now that you got these two little bolts in on the side to hold the caliper in place, you will torque these to anywhere between 25 and 32 foot-pounds. I went with 32. Now you will notice when you go to try and tighten those that this part here will spin. So I used these type of wrenches just to hold that in place. Now you can use vice grips if you don't have a pair of these. All right, thanks for coming out. Oh, I forgot one thing. Now that you have this on, you will have to open up your bleeder valve and have a secondary person press on the brakes. That way the caliper itself can fill up with brake fluid. And then once you have that, your brake caliper is good to go. Now I do suggest putting some sort of tube onto here, that way it could drain into a bucket. That way it's easier for you to see air bubbles still coming out. You'll have to open this up, tell the person in the vehicle that you have it open, then they go to press on the brake and hold it, and then once you see fluid come out, you're going to close this, and then when you tell them it's closed, they take their foot off, wait a second, and then you're going to open it up again, tell them it's open, and then they're going to press down, and you're going to continue that process until you have a solid stream coming out of the brake caliper. Now you will need to purchase brake fluid for your vehicle, because you don't want your master cylinder to run out, and your master cylinder is underneath the hood, close to the back wall on the driver's side.